Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels and short stories. With me is Sam West, and it's a Martial Monday. Today we're going to cover the Paladin Sacred Oath, Oath of Redemption.
I like this one. This is, I would argue, a good replacement for Devotion as like the default goody two shoes kind of paladin archetype. It's a very supportive little archetype. I think it's great. I want to start with this.
It's an interesting one. I got some opinions, but yeah, we'll get to them.
Sure. The Oath of Redemption's first line of text is, the Oath of Redemption sets a paladin on a difficult path, one that requires a holy warrior to use violence only as a last resort. I cannot emphasize this enough. Pacifist characters that engage in no fighting whatsoever are a gigantic headache for the vast majority of tables. It can be fun conceptually. Most of the time in practice, a character that refuses to contribute to fights in a game that is built around combat is going to struggle to be meaningfully impactful and often lead to big frustration. So if you're here going, I want to play a paladin that does not attack, you are in the wrong place. There are no paladins that don't attack. All of what you get helps you attack for the most part. If you want to play an entirely non-violent character, you probably want to be playing Vampire the Masquerade or a very different role-playing game. They exist, they're fun, but D&D, you kill crap. Like, that's kind of what the game is about. And you can definitely take it as a, all right, well, we've done our due diligence, we tried to circumnavigate this fight, but they're being jerks, so we're going to have to chop some heads off. That's a-okay. That works. You can play that archetype, no problems. What this is positioned as. Don't go for full pacifist. It doesn't work out well in the vast majority of tables. So just, fair warning. I would start with that. Beyond that, Bob, what's your initial impression?
It's interesting. I mean, I agree. Never go full pacifist, but there's a lot of features here that do. You can be a pacifist without not contributing. Like it's got features to allow that.
But you're still gonna ultimately be making an extra attack most of your turns. You're still gonna most of your turns want to be attacking with a great sword twice in a row or a long sword twice in a row, right? Like,
yeah. See, I am, and that's probably why I'm not playing this one.
I think if you also are just in the mood to play a supportive paladin that does kill things efficiently and has more to contribute beyond killing things, I think this is a great option to consider. Yeah. And we can start we can see that in their oath spells, right? So oath spells are really a pivotal element of a lot of archetypes. I think they're often overlooked. These ones in particular set you up as a defensive paladin with a little bit of resiliency to navigate both in and out of combat and encounters. Each level gives you something to those kinds of effects. So your third level options, which are first level spells, you get Sanctuary and Sleep. I'm not a huge fan of Sanctuary. I'm a bigger fan of Sleep. These two together give you a very clear protector archetype. At least Sanctuary is cheap, so you can throw a bonus action out, defend somebody that you really don't want to. You really want to have them not get hit anymore and try and pull them out of a fight. That's kind of where it's at its best. Having that in that niche situation that'll come up is kind of handy. That's why it makes a decent oath spell, but Sleep is an excellent oath spell. Something that paladins don't normally get is this area of effect damage kind of thing. And this can let you have a way to end a fight concisely by doing a big area of effect. Everyone falls asleep now that they're relatively injured, which is cute. It works really well on this kind of archetype.
See, Sanctuary would be good, like, to cast on this character if he's not planning on fighting.
But again, he should be planning on fighting. You don't cast this on a character that's not going to engage. The option of, I cast Sanctuary on myself, take a shield out, and just hope no one hits me and I won't hit anyone back is not a valid way to try and play. It is
Can
going
you cast
to end
it on
badly.
yourself?
You can Sanctuary yourself.
Oh, all right. I didn't know that. All right, so you cast it on yourself, and you get your shield, and you just march into the enemy.
And you don't attack them. They poke at you and realize you're a waste of time, and then they run to your backline and kill your friends.
Well, that's not a waste of time. I mean, hey, easy kill. I'm going to keep stabbing this guy. He's not fighting back.
It's funny thematically. It plays really poorly. It does not work out at all for anyone involved for that specific use case.
With some of the features you get, like later on, like, all right, they're stabbing you. You're not fighting back, but they are like hurting themselves.
Okay. We'll cover it more
in which case, I guess maybe they will skip you and go and kill your friends.
Correct. Okay. Correct. They go, if I poke this thing that isn't even remotely threatening and it deals me a little bit of damage, I'll just ignore it and go kill the backline characters because I'm not going to get stopped by this paladin.
All right. Here's something I have a little bit of a problem with conceptually. Sure. All right. Spells like Sleep and Hold Person. I mean, how much redemption do you think you're getting if you're holding a guy down while your friends beat it to death?
again, the objective isn't to entirely be non-violent. The objective is to use violence as a last resort. So in the case of hold person, often it's I'm going to interrupt this person before they engage us. If they're not going to get talked out of it, we're going to crit them a whole lot, right? It's a persuasive tool that you use. Now, you could also use it as the classic saber die of, oh, the fight's already started, hold that person, get them, boys.
Yeah,
But
that's the only way hold person has ever been used in the history of this game.
I have seen hold person get cast as a way to try and prevent a fight from occurring outright. It doesn't usually work, but sometimes it does. So that's nice. And what's more important is it's a decent in combat spell that holds something out of a fight, right? So you say, okay, we can crit this thing down. We can also just say that bandit lord is not going to be fighting us for at least 2 or 3 rounds. So you hold person and it's stuck there. That alongside a spell that does do a really great job of circumnavigating a fight, right, with calm emotions, where everyone calm down, no one throw punches, everyone will talk this out.
No argument with calm emotions. That's fine. But all right, hold person. If you use hold person the way you were just talking about, you're wasting hold person, and I don't love that.
Blocking somebody down is useful. If they're not taking any actions and you deal with other threats, it's good. If you deal with them,
with the potential of what hold person can do,
sure.
Like,
I would say its best use case is you get 2 rounds of them not acting, kill all their friends, and then also still crit them to death, right? That's normally the best possible use case of hold person. Now, that's kind of far-fetched, especially because your safety on Paladin isn't super high. So a lot of times you're going to be like, okay, hold that thing, a couple people attack other things, and you go, I mean, I got a great sword. I'm gonna crit this thing twice, and then it works out great for you. But it's also the kind of thing where, like, I don't think you're gonna often hold person on Paladin because of the save DC issue and because of a couple of other little nuances where, like, you're forgoing more than a full caster is sometimes in terms of you losing your multi attack, especially because you're getting this at 5th level and not 3rd level. So you're gonna start to feel that disparity a little bit. Hold person isn't nearly as good as a 3rd level spell as it is a 2nd level spell. So, like, there are counterbalancing factors to that. I think it's perfectly fine. I don't think it's busted broken, but I think it's good. And the fact that we were 4 for 4 on spells being good, I'm here for.
All right.
A really big one we haven't touched on yet. 9th level Oath Spell is counter spell. And that is so unbelievably good on Paladin. It is so useful to have a Paladin that is able to prevent magical assaults from even 9th level spells. Having extra characters in the party that can say no to Circle of Death, that can say no to Power Word Kill, that can say no to Feeble Mind is really useful. Even if they're not that good at it, just one extra chance at denying a giant impactful effect is really useful. And sometimes they'll just eat fireballs. And you are happy to trade your defensive reaction for fireballs that use your spell slots really efficiently. It's really good on Paladins. I'm a huge fan.
And it fits thematically with this in a way that doesn't make me uncomfortable. Like,
you're really hung up on hold person, huh?
Yes, because I don't for a second believe that you're using this toward your redemption.
It doesn't say your buddies auto crit them, it just paralyzes them. And then the paralyzed condition says your buddies auto crit them.
I'm just saying, like, you are facilitating and turning a blind eye toward your friend's murderous rampages.
Usually after diplomacy's failed, right? That's what I will say.
Yeah, if your god is okay with that.
Sure. I mean, again, the paladins aren't deities anymore. They're not devoted to deities anymore as much. So, it's just tenets. It's just what you personally hold dear. Maybe you do hold dear that, you know what? If they've wronged us, it's perfectly still fine to smite them into a crater. That's okay. As long as you tried other options, I think it's within the tenets of Oath of Redemption.
Okay.
What do you feel about Hypnotic Pattern?
I forgot what it does.
It's a big 30-foot cube that makes everyone stunned in an area.
Oh, that,
Sorry, it's not... incapacitated and charmed, not stunned technically.
That feels like it could. I mean, it could be abused, or it could be used similarly to calm emotions.
Yeah, I think a lot of times what's going to happen is a fight's going to start, and you're going to go, crap, we're going to lose this, and you hypnotic pattern. That's often what bards try and do, or even like we need to CC a bunch of things at once, crowd control them. Hypnotic pattern, I think in a Paladin's wheelhouse, I'm super here for. It'll be a way to circumnavigate a fight like you suggested. It'll also be a way to set a whole bunch of people up to die. Well, it's not to love.
Yeah.
17th level gives you Hold Monster, which is kind of interesting. Wall of Force is kind of interesting. They're more interesting 5th level spells because they interact on a kind of... They do unique things that do scale well with how the game progresses. Wall of Force being this big indestructible barrier is useful against things that you would not want coming through a big indestructible barrier, or Hold Monster affects higher CR creatures, so it kind of scales with the game. Resilient Sphere and Stone Skin are not great. And they're what you get at 13th level, so like we don't really need to touch on those too much. But for the most part, I really think this is a pretty solid Oath spell list that will set you up to be a character that is geared at controlling environments, preventing fights, or in fights, locking things down and sort of mitigating damage incoming, as well as doing the regular Paladin. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. It's a great and powerful spell list, but I don't know.
Hold person doesn't fit to you.
Well, and hold monster, same issues. Except
Sure.
they're monsters. I don't know.
Sure. And you feel less guilty about it whenever it's not a humanoid.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's reasonable.
But I guess maybe maybe the temptation to abuse it is part of the redemption. You have to overcome that.
I would even say maybe you'd need to go on a quest for redemption to get your mind out of the horrible nature of hold person and see it for what it is. It's just a way to stop somebody from aggressively attacking you, obviously.
No, I'm just not going to play this subclass.
Oh, it's a shame. I think there's a lot of fun stuff here. So,
yeah,
including the channel divinities. So, emissary piece is the first one you get. You get once per short rest. Any of the channel divinities. So you pick one of these two. Emissary piece, as a bonus action, you get +5 to charisma persuasion checks for 10 minutes. Sure. That's a useful skill. It sets you up very clearly as I'm going to be the face of the party. You're going to often be outdoing your bards and stuff at this tier, so you can say, like, I do the persuasion thing. You can do the deception thing, you can do the performance thing, but I do the persuasion thing. I got a +3 on my, or +2 on my charisma, +5 from emissary piece. We're doing it. We're living our best life. I think it's fine. I love that it's an out of combat feature because it pairs with Rebuke the Violent, and you rebuke the Violent immediately after an attacker within 30 feet of you deals damage to you with an attack against a creature other than you. Sorry. Whenever a creature within 30 feet of you deals damage with an attack against a creature other than you, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the attacker takes radiant damage equal to the damage it just dealt. On a successful save, it takes half as much. This feature is really good. This feature is yucky powerful because it'll take, like, a fire giant that swings for 40-12 damage +9 and just come right back in the face with it as a reaction. That's so good.
Yeah, I love both of these.
Yeah.
I think that both of these fit the character. This is exactly what I want Oath of Redemption to do. This, you got emissary piece, like, I want to persuade you to let's move on in friendship together. If that doesn't work, you got Rebuke the Violent. Look, listen, I told you not to hit my friend.
I really think that it's a feature that scales with the game. Both of these are used in different avenues of play, which I really like a lot for my channel divinities, where some channel divinities are if you look at Ancients has both are used for combat, but one is used in common combats, it's just a root, the other one's used in specific combats against Fae and stuff. This is emissary piece is used in non-combat and rebuke is used in combat. So you have kind of clear lanes and times where they're not even going to overlap resource-wise that much. If you have any time between going on an adventure and where you expect to be battling things and just navigating the city, emissary piece is going to fit right alongside Rebuke the Violent. You wouldn't have used either of the other in the opposite circumstances, right? You're not using emissary piece whenever you're fighting giant oozes, nor are you using Rebuke the Violent whenever you're just dealing with merchants. But having them for those separate encounters with a short rest in between feels really organic. It makes your character feel like it's got more to do because it uses the channel divinity in such different ways.
Absolutely, yeah. Big fan.
Aura of the Guardian is what we get at 7th level. So at starting at 7th level, you can shield your allies from harm at the cost of your own health. So it's like a warding bond. Whenever a creature within 10 feet of you takes damage, you can use your reaction to magically take the damage instead of that creature taking it. The feature doesn't transfer any other effects that might have come into damage. The damage can't be reduced in any way. And at 18th level, goes up to 30 feet. What do you think?
Yeah, this is taking a beating for the team. Conceptually, for the Oath, I like it. Yeah, I guess you go into battle with a giant sack of healing potions and keep sucking them down as your friends get stabbed and you take the wounds.
I like this as a build around me kind of feature to say your hit points are party hit points. So the features that give you more hit points are beneficial ways to stack your HP with temporary hit points or with, feats like tough or other features that, like being a hill dwarf, you get an extra +1 to your +1 to your hit point pool. Like you can leverage and build a character whose objective is just to be a giant damage sponge. And Aura of the Guardian plays really well into that kind of archetype where you can say, my monk's going to be okay, my rogue's going to be okay, my fighter buddy's going to be okay. I'm going to use Aura of the Guardian reflexively to soak damage where I need to keep allies up longer, which is somewhat interesting. I like that we have a mechanic that lets you kind of share your HP with the party in this kind of fashion. Now, not being able to reduce the damage in any way is a gigantic bummer, like a colossal bummer, because this also already takes your reaction to use, right? Which is, we know, competing with a good feature already in Rebuke the Violent. Like sometimes when you see a buddy get hit, you might go, oh, that's going to really hurt. I'm going to not take that damage. You're going to still take that damage, bud, because I'm going to Rebuke the Violent instead. there's a little bit of tension there, but it's still a pretty interesting feature, at least, even if it isn't necessarily overtly super powerful.
Yeah.
15th level. Oh, unless you got more.
How often can you use Aura of the Guardian?
Whenever you like.
Okay. Yeah, that's
once per turn. It's your reaction, but it's that's why it kind of competes with Rebuke the Violent, because Rebuke the Violent also is your action or your reaction.
But Rebuke the Violent you only get to use once per short rest.
Yeah, once for your Channel Divinity.
So yeah, I mean, Aura of the Guardian, you can keep soaking up damage through an entire fight. Yep. So it's not. You can use Rebuke the Violent once, and then not feel too guilty about not taking the stab wound from your friend. And then, keep doing it over and over again after that.
Again, there's a little bit of tension in that you really want to rebuke whatever the biggest possible hit is. So, like, you're going to be, like, seeing, like, taking a little arrow blast for your opponent. Be like, oh, yeah, I'll take that damage. I'll take that damage. I'll take that damage. And then the giant meteor flies in and slams into the thing. And you're like, I'm not going to take that damage. I'm going to rebuke that one. I think that's kind of funny, Not exactly in line with the archetype's theming, but it's cute. I think it's a funny little thing. Funny little quirk. Protective Spirit is what you get at 15th level. So it's starting at 15th level. A Holy Presence mends your wounds in combat. You're getting HP equal to 1d6 plus half your Paladin level if you end your turn in combat with fewer than half your hit points remaining and aren't incapacitated, which pairs beautifully with Aura of the Guardian. Now Aura of the Guardian feels like a lot better of a feature, and you really want to keep your HP under half. Like, losing out on that healing is pretty annoying, so you definitely want to have as much juice going back into you as possible.
Now this one, all right, so yeah, there's nothing to discourage you from mitigating the damage. You just I forget. I had a point, but I forgot what it was.
Sure. There's an interesting little notable feature of this is that you have to be in combat for this to regenerate, which is they try to mitigate some of the Munchkin things with this, where like they didn't want Protective Spirit very obviously to be just like you always heal back to half your max HP. The thing is, like, it really encourages you to get in fights with things that aren't particularly dangerous. Like, they'll be like, go wrestle that deer, and the deer does like a d4 plus 2 damage, which is less than the damage that you deal to it. So if you find like a rabid raccoon that does less than a d6 plus half your Paladin level in damage, you can just like flick it and really annoy it and enter initiative to heal back to half your max HP. And then you just keep like a rabid raccoon in your back pocket just so you can have a way to get into combat to heal back to half your maximum hit points.
Right. This sounds like a me idea.
It's an unfortunate quirk of features of this of 5th edition lacking good gamified language and good like concise terms to say this is when you're in combat, this is when these powers work, this is when these abilities work. Like 4th edition had a little bit better of a structure for this than this 5th edition does. This case is still very gameable to say, okay, we just need to find something that, like, go fight a 12-year-old. They can't reasonably hurt you. Don't reasonably hurt them. It'll be fine, but that'll be a way that you can restore your hit points back.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say. Aura of the Guardian, you can't have your damage reduced in any way. Protective Spirit, if you're under half HP, you want to be mitigating this damage you're taking somehow, like, through resistances or whatever, because, like, while D6 plus half your Paladin level is a nice regeneration rate, you want to keep that as close as possible to the damage you're taking, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I mean, so you are still like, damage resistance will be helpful for you getting attacked, always. And you are building a character ideally that has a big pool of hit points, so resistance is going to be good on you regardless. So that's a nice little boon to it as well. Yeah,
okay. But I mean, it's just like, what I'm thinking is, though, this only works if you're under half your hit points, so you're kind of getting into a red zone. You want to be extra careful.
Sure, but you will have like 200 hit points, so you'll be like, you have less than 100 hit points, which is a couple of attacks at least you normally. And then there'll be some.
All right, this is 15th level, so
yeah, and there'll be a couple moments where you'll be like, oh, I don't want to take that 80 points of damage the wizard just took. I'll rebuke it instead. That's cute. Finally, Emissary of Redemption is what we close out on. It's a 20th level capstone. It says, at 20th level, you become an avatar RPG, which gives you the following benefits. And now normally these, like, say for an action or for a minute or whatever. Nope, you just have this. You have resistance to all damage dealt by other creatures, their attacks, spells, and other effects. Whenever a creature damages you, it takes radiant damage equal to half the amount of damage it dealt you. And then, if that was all it said, this would be one of the best features in the game. Instead, it says, if you attack a creature, cast a spell on it, or deal damage to it by any means but this feature, neither benefit works against that creature until you finish a long rest. Now, Bob, This is where you're like, oh, it'll be fine. I'll just sanctuary myself and walk into the middle of a crowd. What's the worst that can happen?
All right,
You can
I don't like that
attack
impression
things.
of me, but yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
You can still attack things. You just don't want to attack everything. You want to focus your fire. You want to still be a threatening enemy, but you don't necessarily want to be a threatening enemy against 12 different things. You want to be a threatening enemy against one of the 12 different things to draw fire to you still. You still want to have a presence and be a reasonable threat. You just don't necessarily want to spread that damage out to get the most out of this feature.
All right, because it is creature to creature.
It's creature to creature.
All right, that's nice.
Yes. So a lot of times what this looks like is you pick the highest hit point thing that does the least amount of damage, and you say, that is my nemesis. And you charge it down with your great sword, with your buddies close and tail, and you take as much damage from everything around it as possible, with you using your Aura of the Guardian to soak in damage that they're taking from behind you. And then that one low damage, high HP thing, which, that's not that particularly common, but that one entity is going to be doing normal damage to you. Everything else is going to be a lot worse off against you. This also pulls a little bit, and you kind of want to dive into like a giant pit of monsters that is not normally where the rest of your party wants to go, but like in doing so, you'll just be like, everything takes damage equal to half it deals me. So like you're just eventually burning the pit down because you'll have so much more hit points than everything else that's fighting you. Eventually all the little imps and ghouls and demons will slowly kill themselves before they can kill you while you wail on the Balor's head. That's a super sweet fantasy.
And it fits well with the protective spirit because this is giving you resistance to all damage. So like what I'm saying, yeah.
It's. I think this is a really clear, concise package as to what this option wants to be doing in a really excellently designed vision. I think they didn't want to make a character that was, you have to be a pacifist and you're going to be non-functional and it's going to be bogus. Instead, they gave it a lot of interesting features that encourage alternate routes as options, but also give you plenty to do in combat that is beneficial while you still do the regular paladin thing. I really can't emphasize this enough. You do not want to play this archetype and forgo extra attack. You do not want to play this archetype and forgo divine smite. Those are very good features that are the bulk of your power still, but this gives you some avenues to feel and play like a different protector archetype, a different defender, sort of diplomatic paladin option that I really, really like.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm glad you said all that because before we had this talk, I was looking over things and I was getting a real Passion of the Christ kind of vibe from it, where you're just slogging along, taking beatings, and just getting more and more messed up. And I feel like if whoever chooses to play this character, that player is going to invite everyone to their non-denominational church every session.
Absolutely.
Right.
This kind of character is one that looks to see war is bad, violence is bad, but is a necessary evil, right? It's the kind of thing where this is a character that wants to seek peace, wants to navigate around it, and does have the tools to do that to some degree. But it also is speak softly and carry a big stick. It carries a very big stick, and that big stick is a giant radiant rebuke and a passive rebuke on everything that attacks you, and giant resistance to damage types, and a well of hit points that keep your allies alive so they can still fire off their barrages of spells and stuff. This is packing great defensive heat, as well as plenty of offensive options for you with hold person and hold monster, as well as the regular paladin offense line of a double extra attack with divine smite. So you can have a really solid time playing a very complex character with this. I will end on this note as well. Don't play a pacifist. Pacifists are not good in Dungeons & Dragons. This is not the game for pacifists. I have seen a few people try it. It gets old very fast. And whenever you're playing a character that is literally doing nothing, you will start to get ignored.
All right. You've changed my mind a little bit about this. I like the way you suggest playing it, but I will feel bad. I'll feel like I'm not leaning into the character every time I use hold person, because I'm going to use it offensively. I'm going to hope my friends stab the creature to death, and I'll feel bad about that afterwards.
Sure.
My character will. I won't give a shit.
There's got to be some internal struggle, right?
Yeah. All right.
Hold person's an opportunity for internal struggle.
Yeah, there you go. All right, you got a grade for this one?
While I don't think it's the most powerful option in the game, I think it deserves an A. I don't think there's a dud feature here. I think their entire spell list, outside of Resilient Sphere and Stone Skin, are excellent for their level, for what you're getting. The 5th level spells are about as good as I could ask for. And everything else on this character option is yep, I want all of these features on this archetype. The Channel Divinities are great and opposite. spectrums, but either very usable and flexible across most of the game, or the Guardian is a really deeply interesting feature, even if it isn't like overtly powerful. And Protective Spirit and Emissary of Redemption very clearly all combine this option to have some fun build around directions, to have some fun, flavorfully enriching thematics. It's a home run.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a B+. I agree with everything you said, but I feel like it's complicated. The role playing aspect to it.
It really is just whole person. That's what's holding it back
It's
from
not
A
just whole
territory.
person. It's like you've been saying the entire time. Don't be a pacifist. Don't be a pacifist. Like this
Yes.
really feels like you want to be a pacifist, but you can't do that, or else you're going to be bored to death, and your friends will be annoyed with you. You really got to thread a needle with this one, I feel. And
I don't think that needle's that hard to thread. I think you just need to seek to avoid conflict, but when conflict is inevitable, fight. And a lot of conflict's inevitable, and that's fine. Give it the good old college try. Say, I tried to talk them down, but they threw out the shot and arrow. I guess they're going to have to get their heads cut off. It's that easy.
Okay. All right. Well, I stand by my B+ just the same.
Yeah, that's fair.
B+ isn't bad. I was thrilled to get those in high school. All right. That was Oath of Redemption. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Let us know. This was, if nothing else, this is an interesting subclass. Let us know your thoughts. Hit the subscribe buttons and the like buttons and all the buttons, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.